So here we are. I'm joined by two UK drumming legends today. Now, normally I ask the questions, but I've come up with a much better suggestion today. I'm joined by my friend Steve White and the fabulous Don Powell. So thank you for joining me, gentlemen. It's a real treat.
I've got a chocolate bar.
We forgive you, Don. Don't worry. So, Steve, Don, I'm going to hand over to you. Take it away. I'm just going to sit here and listen. Over to you.
Well, it's great to see you, Don. It really is. And you're over in Denmark and having a chocolate bar and a cup of tea. But I wanted to take you all the way back to where it all started and your original influences in terms of drums and music. Where did it catch fire for you?
Well, it was about 63, I think, 62, 63. And how it was, I mean, I didn't know. I was just a member of this youth club, just where I lived, you know, back on the outskirts of Wolverhampton. And then these two guys came to see me, Johnny Howells and Mickey Marson. Johnny was the singer and he played guitar, and Mick was the guitarist. And they'd heard that I was interested in drums, and they came down to the youth club to ask me if I'd join them. They'd just got like a little duo thing. They'd come down, and I said, I don't even know where to start. And I thought, I've got no drums anyway. And I said, well, we'll see if we can find some or whatever. But as it happened, I had a school friend who was in the same class as me at school. He got some drums, and we lived on the same council estate back on the outskirts of Wolverhampton. So I went round and see him, a guy named Dave, and he had this old Olympic kit. You know, sort of one of the very first ones, you know, with no bottom skins, you know, sort of thing. And it was like it should have been white, but it was like off-white, you know, sort of, you know. And he lent it to me. He lent me the kit. He said, I'm not doing anything with it. And I had that. I must have had that for about 3 or 4 years. He never asked for it back. And I can't even remember what happened to it. Anyway, sort of... So we went up, and as happened, Johnny, the singer, there's only him and his dad, and they had like a little guest house just on the outskirts of Wolverhampton, and it was quite a big house for the time, I suppose. And they had like it was quite a big living room downstairs, and they had like a bathroom off one of the bathrooms was off the living room, and so I used to put the drums in there, and then Johnny and Mick just went through the same amp, and Johnny was singing and Mick was playing, and we used to just shout to each other. And the very first song I actually learned to play drums to was Thinking Over by Buddy Holly.
Yeah,
because they were a few years older than me, and that's what they were into. They turned me on to all that stuff. I'd never heard like Eddie Cochran or Buddy Holly. I never heard any of this stuff before, and so they turned me on to all the rock stuff, really. And it was a revelation to me. I never heard anything like this, because this youth club I was a member of used to just play like Billy Fury records, Eden Kane, like the singers at the time, and like Joe Brown and people like that. I'd never heard any of this stuff that they were into, but it turned me on to rock and roll, really. And that was it. It was all off, and then we never really had any gigs, and then we did this one thing we used to have this cinema around the corner from, an audience cinema around the corner from Johnny's house, and they used to have the Saturday morning matinees, and sometimes they used to have like an entertainment thing before the cinema program started, and Johnny got us to do, but all we did was mime. I just had a snare drum, Mick had a guitar, and Johnny we mimed to Think It Over, Peggy Sue, and I can't remember what else, something else. I think it was something else by Eddie Cochran. We never got paid for it. But it was like I was so bloody scared on stage. I'd never been on stage before, and I just got my head down all the time. I couldn't face the audience. It was amazing. Yeah, and then we got I remember the one time we got a paid gig. Johnny came around and said, we got a wedding. You're going to play at a wedding at a local pub. He said, are we getting paid for it? I remember saying, getting paid? We get paid for this, you know. And we got £6, This was like fantastic then. It was like sort of £2 each. That was incredible. You know, that was amazing. I mean, fish and chips was only like just over about 7p in those days, you know, but in like old money, but thing. But it was, it was just a total revelation to me.
And were you aware of the rich vein of music that was going on in the West Midlands at the time? There was, you know, obviously you've got Ozzy and Bill Ward and
yeah.
a little bit further out Bonzo and you know John Bonham.
No, not at that time we didn't, because Birmingham, although it's only 10 miles from where we were, it was like a different country. It was like a totally different scene, and we had the few groups around the Wolverhampton area and the Bilston area. There's a great group, what I remember anyway, called Danny Cannon and the Ramrods, and I've just made contact with them all again. Obviously, they don't play anymore, but we used to go and see them, you know, at the town hall in Bilston, and just some of the working men's clubs and things like that. And I've made contact with them all again, which has been fantastic, you know. And I'm hoping to get together with them at some point, you know, sort of whenever I get over there. And around Wolverhampton, there was a group called the Montanas, and they were pretty good, but all they did was top 20 material. Because the basic gigs around that time were just like pubs and working men's clubs, and that's all they wanted to hear was the top 20 stuff, top 20 material.
So how did it come about that eventually hooking up with Nod and Dave? What was the story there?
Now, well, what it was, we like I said, there was the three of us, myself, Johnny, and Mick. And then we sort of, this guy came, I don't know how he came about now, but he must have seen us in one of the pubs. And he came, his name was Chalky White. And he wanted to manage us, right, you know. And so he got us a few gigs. Like I said, it was only working men's clubs and pubs then. And he said, I think you need another guitarist. And we didn't really know anybody. He said, well, I think I know someone. I know this kid. He's playing in like a show band, like sort of thing. He says, and I'll go and ask him. And that would happen to be Dave Hill. And he came down to a rehearsal one Sunday, you know, and he was doing, he knew it was a bit more advanced than we were. He was doing like Chuck Berry stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, at that time, he was playing like the bar chords and all the things like that, you know. So I'd never seen anything like that before, and so that worked straight away. So Dave was in. Brilliant. And that was it. And then we auditioned for a bass player. Then this guy named Dave Jones, all from the same area. He came along, and we went on for a couple of years, and that was about 63, 64, just as the Beatles really broke it, you know, became mega in 63, and a lot of gigs sort of opened up for us. Like, but it's still only pubs and hotels and working men's clubs, you know. But then I always remember there's a few groups around the area. Who we got to know. There used to be a top-ranked ballroom where they used to have bands on Monday nights, you know, so we used to go along there. And that's where we met Noddy Holder. He used to go there, and we sort of met him. We always used to meet up on Monday nights at the top-ranked ballroom. But anyway, sort of 1965, we were offered the usual month in Germany. He was in Dortmund, you know, sort of thing. So, of course, like everybody thought, because the Beatles had done it, everybody would make it if they went to spend some time in Germany. You would make it as well, like the Beatles did. And we had this month's stint in Dortmund, and we were paid. I remember so vividly, £14 a week each, and accommodation, like it was like a farmhouse, you know, sort of about 5 or 6 miles outside Dortmund, all of us in one room, sort of thing, you know. But that's what it was then, you know. I mean, I played for about 8 hours a night, you know. But as it happened, there was an English army base in Dortmund as well, and a lot of the squaddies were in the club, especially weekends, and they were just like just shoving glasses of beer onto the stage for us and all that kind of thing. But it was a great experience. But about what I'm coming round to, Nod, with his group, he was with they joined a cabaret singer called Steve Brett, and it was Steve Brett and the Mavericks, and they were doing a month in Germany at the same time, but they were in Frankfurt, and we sort of we were on the same ferry going over. And then we got to sort of know each other. And then when we came back, I mean, our band was sort of falling apart, really. You know, I think what it was, like they always say, like the month away in Germany will either make or break you. And it was falling apart sort of thing. And Dave and myself were in Wolverhampton, and we bumped into Noddy Holder. So we went and had a cup of tea, and his group, it happened the same with his group. They were falling apart as well, and we said about forming a band together, and that's where we auditioned for the bass player, which was Jim Lee.
Wow.
And that's how it all started, really. But we had a few gigs to honour, but that was with the original singer Johnny. So there was Nod was basically just a backing vocalist and the second guitarist then. And what it was, Dave and myself, it was before the Allman Brothers wanted to have a group with sort of twin lead players, you know, two lead guitarists, and playing like a lot in harmony or octaves together. That was the choice of asking Nod, because Nod was the lead guitarist with his band. And he wasn't the lead vocalist either. He was just the second vocalist. You know, it's amazing when you think.
Imagine having Nod as the second vocalist.
Sorry?
Imagine having Noddy as the second vocalist.
Can you? It was unbelievable. But he didn't sing like that, like he does like that there. But you could see. I mean, he sounded like John Lennon a lot even then. You know, and that's how we came together, really. And then how it was, we came together. But the agency in Wolverhampton didn't particularly like us that much. We were playing a lot of Tamla Motown stuff we were playing at the time, and around the gigs around Wolverhampton, the pubs and clubs, they just wanted bands to play the top 20. You know, so we didn't really get that much work in that for that reason. You know, we were too loud for them as well. We were always too loud, you know. So we're on the uphill struggle, but we really had faith in ourselves. Then we asked the agency if they could get us a gig, do a stint in Germany, so we could get to know each other and get together ourselves as a band. So they booked us into this club in Kiel, north of Germany. But the manager there, he hated us with a vengeance. He really hated us. You know, he said we were too loud and we weren't playing the top 20 material. And the accommodation was to be sort of found for us. But this club was in a big old cinema that had been converted. And our accommodation was like the stairs that went down the back of the cinema. There's like 4 landings, and there was a camp bed on each of these landings, and that's where we slept, and we had to clean up in the club's toilet sort of thing during the day, you know. But like I said, he hated us with a vengeance, and he wouldn't give us any money. So we lasted about a week. Anyway, what I'm coming to was the top of the bill at that particular club when we were there was Paul Raven and the Boston Show Band, which became Gary Glitter.
Yeah.
And he used to take us out and buy us like the sausage and chips and coffee, because we had no money, because like I said, the manager hated us and he wouldn't give us any money, and that's why we left after a week. And we just came back to Wolverhampton and just carried on playing the pubs and clubs and, you know, things like that. That was in 66, yeah. And then we just carried on playing the clubs and pubs around Wolverhampton. Well, that's all it was anyway. That's all there was then.
So you must have been gigging and building up all your chops, getting tighter, becoming that that really big sound that Slade had. You know,
It was because Nod and Dave used to play twin leads together.
yeah.
It was like it was a bit like the Allman Brothers thing, without obviously before the Allman Brothers, but and it was a big sound that we were getting together. Although we were, but it was working, and Nod became lead vocalist. I mean, like I said, he was on the backing vocalist before, and he became the lead vocalist, and it just gelled straight away. It was unbelievable, really. It gelled straight away.
It wasn't an overnight thing for you guys, was it? Like from like.
Oh, no. I mean, so we spent years. Just as it was in those days, just like I said, pubs, clubs, and hotels.
And fashion changes, a bit of the boot boy look as well, wasn't there, going on?
But that came after. But before that, I mean, we had this gig offered in the Bahamas. I don't know whether you know this. We got this gig offered in the Bahamas. I mean, what it was, where we used to be the members of this youth club in where we lived. And the club owner, club manager sort of thing, used to let us rehearse there, as long as we played for him for maybe a couple of times a month sort of thing. So, but apparently this guy who used to be a member of this youth club, he moved out to the Bahamas. His sister was out there apparently and married a local Bahamian, and he was out there, and he saw this outlet in this club in the Bahamas. And he got talked to people into booking an English band, and he was a big fan of ours. And this thing came through the agency that we were with over there, and we said, "You've been offered this gig in the Bahamas? What? I mean, that's like going to the moon, if you know what I mean." And the deal was, it was 8 weeks in the Bahamas, $100 a week each, which is a fortune, and accommodation and food found. We thought, well, you can't go any wrong there. And play a bit like the German scene, and play about 6 hours a night or 6 stints a night sort of thing. Anyway, none of us had ever been on a plane before. We'd never flown before. I mean, can you imagine these 4 scumbags flying to Nassau? You know what I mean? But I mean, that was another revelation. And we'd never been in a hotel before either. So we go to this hotel. I always remember these two twin rooms. It's enormous. It was a Sheraton hotel, and we're on the ground floor. But it overlooked this massive lagoon. And outside, Nod and Jim was in one, and it was an two adjoining rooms. And me and Jim were in the other. And there was like a big lagoon outside, and there was Frank Sinatra's yacht there, Sean Connery's yacht there, because we didn't know about that kind of stuff then. It was a tax-free island, right? So they were laundering all their money there. Apparently, Sean Connery still lives there.
Yeah, he does.
Out there. And of course, this was like a revelation to us. And of course, like you never seen, the weather like this. And anyway, this guy who took us over there, so we got checked in the hotel, and said, so I'll go home now. He said, I'll have a clean up, and I'll come back tonight, and we'll go out for something to eat, and I'll show you around. He said, and if you want anything, need anything, just pick up the phone and order room service. And we said, what? We said, what's room service? what's that? And he said, you just pick, there's a menu there. Look, if you need anything, call them and they'll bring it to you. We don't have to go and get it. No, they'll bring it to you. We haven't got a clue, which we wouldn't in those days. And of course, like, it was a revelation, because like, and then the next day he said, I'll pick you up. It was like I said, then we had like 2 AC30s and just an 18-inch speaker for the bass, and I had really just the box standard Ludwig kit then, and but anyway, we got a couple of taxis, and when we took our equipment to this club, but all of a sudden the luxury started to disappear. And then we started going into the jungle. Right, we thought, hang on a bit, where are we going? And this club was right in the really back part of the island, But we thought, well, we're here now. We're going to have a great time. And it was a bit of a dive. The club was, but we didn't care. For God's sake, it was four guys from Wolverhampton in the Bahamas, right? And the thing was, it was like it was right in the middle of where just the local Bohemians were, and I remember there was a curfew. In the club at 10 o'clock for anybody under 18 years old. So there's a lot of American school kids there, and quite a few English people who I've made contact with since. Anyway, so they had to leave at 10 o'clock, and then it was just full of the drunk, junky Bohemians after that, you know, till about 5 in the morning. And but they loved us. They couldn't understand it because there's 4 white kids, but we were playing Tamla Motown stuff. You know, it was like that kind of stuff they liked. And but I mean, it was just like a revelation. I mean, sort of. But the club, well, because of where it was on the island, it was making no money. You know, because it was a dodgy part of the island. But we didn't care. Now that's what I remember. The guy who managed it, a guy named Duke. He said, "I can't give you $100 a week each at the moment, but I can give you some." He gave you like $100, yeah, between us, which we didn't mind because we were in the hotel, we're eating and drinking in the hotel, so we didn't care, we didn't need anything. But okay. After 6 weeks, the hotel manager sent for us and wanted to know when he was going to get some money. And, you know, when you feel the blood drain from your face, you know what I mean? Because we said, well, we're under the impression that the hotel was being paid. And he said, no, I don't know anything about that. Because like, now this is like 6 weeks. And we've been like just ordering everything we could think of on room service, you know, all the food or drink, everything on room service. And this is like 6 weeks. We should have been there for 8 weeks, and this was 6 weeks. And we said, well, the club's making no money, and we've just been given something. So we haven't really got any money, but we thought the hotel was being paid for. That's why we're still here. He said, no. We said, well, what's the bill? And just remember, this is 1968. He said, at the moment, it's around about $35,000. And we just went into hysterics. We couldn't stop laughing. You know, he said, it ain't funny. He said, and you're not. He said, you're not staying here anymore. And he says, and I know, we didn't know. He said, but I know 2 American guys from Miami, which is just across the water, have bought the club, and they're willing to pay you $100 a week between you, which somebody from the hotel will come down and take 75 and leave you with 25. That's like leaving us with 10 quid. You know what I mean? And he said, I'm moving you out of the hotel into one of the staff apartments, which is just 1 room. We put 4 camp beds in there, and there's a bathroom and a toilet and a kitchen. And he kept us there, and we were there for 3.5 months. You know, wow. He wouldn't let us leave. But don't get me wrong, I mean, at least we were in the Bahamas.
The sun was shining.
You know, we weren't like in the outbacks in Russia sort of thing, you know. And we were just on the beach every day. We just didn't care. We really didn't care, you know. But and then he started bringing the 2 club owners started bringing acts over from Miami, which is just across the water. It was like, well, just soul acts. It was William Bell and people like that. But all the acts that came over, they never had a drummer, did they? So I used to go and play drums with them. So I used to be up on Friday, Saturday, and Sundays. I was on stage from 8 o'clock at night till 4 in the morning without a break. I was playing for everybody. They all sort of did. There was a fire dancer, a female impersonator, there used to be a singer and things like that, a limbo dancer. And then I just play for all of them, just messing around basically, and for us lot as well, you know. But it was just, I mean, like I said, we were four kids. We just didn't care. We were in the Bahamas, for God's sake. And in the end, we had to skip the island because we had like charter tickets, and our flights finished in August. We've been there since May. And you know, I mean, so we didn't want to go home really, but we had to leave, and we just saved enough money to get our equipment back, sort of excess baggage, because it was still on HP, so we couldn't leave it. You know, we're still paying for it. You know, so and see that and then when we'd saved enough money, then we did a runner from the island, and just a few for about for about a month after, we kept on getting these letters from the hotel saying, "Where's our money?" and all that kind of thing. But nothing ever happened. I mean, but like I said, I've made contact with a few of the people, a few of the kids that was at school there. There's a couple of American kids who we made contact with, and it's funny now when you speak to them, they're grandparents now. But it was just on that. I'll tell you what, that's what brought us together as a unit. We only had each other. You know, like living in one room, we had no money, but it was all equal, and we just pulled together, and that's what brought us together as a band, really.
So when you had with Slade, you had this incredible run of singles.
Phenomenal.
Unbelievable. The first single that I ever bought was "Goodbye to Jane" with my own money. And
1972.
72, yeah, I was 7, and then we had,
that's it. That makes me feel good.
Goodbye to Jane was the first single I ever bought. When we got married, we had Every Day as our first dance.
Oh,
and Noel Gallagher describes "How Does It Feel" as one of the greatest songs ever written. What's some of your favourites, Don?
My actual favourite is "Far, Far Away."
Yeah.
Mainly because of Nod's lyrics.
Yeah. Brilliant.
It actually mentions the Bahamas in the lyrics.
Yeah.
And it's all about our traveling, because we were touring non-stop. It's all about all over the world, the States. It mentions the Bahamas. And that's my favourite one. Goodbye to Jane was just like how that came about. With Charles, who managed us and also produced our records at the time, we used to record at Olympic Studios in Barnes. We finished some recording, whatever we were doing at the time. It was 72, and he said, "Well, we've got about an hour left or something like that. Is there anything you've got that we can sort of, like just put a basic track down while we're here? We've got an hour left." And that was "Goodbye to Jane." Nod and Jim have basically only just written it, and they played it to me and Dave, and the actual drum intro was like, I remember it was from a German TV show that we'd done a couple of times with "'Cause I Love You" and "Get Down and Get With It," and that kind of drum intro was the intro to this pop show.
Ah, right. Okay.
And we thought, I wonder if that'll work for that. You know, it was a lot faster, like on the TV show, but I thought, I wonder if it's quite catchy, that intro thing. But that's where it was from. Just nicked it from a German TV show. Yeah, as these things happen. You know.
Fantastic. So obviously you made a movie. I think one of the best sort of rock movies ever made.
I'll tell you what, that was 75. I'll tell you what, when we got offered the movie, it's from the same company, Good Time Productions, that have made That'll Be the Day and Stardust. And they wanted to make a movie, but with an actual band. You know, so we said, yeah, we're up for that. That sounds good. And the director, Richard Longcrane, and the scriptwriter, Andrew Birkin, came on an American tour with us, because they got no idea about the music scene, really. You know, they wanted an actual band to play in the film, so they came with us on one American tour. I think they lasted a couple of weeks, and they came back nervous wrecks, like with the twitch, you know, with the traveling and the touring and all that kind of thing. Because people, you know yourself, people don't realise how hard it is. You know, and these had never done anything like that before. They were like physical wrecks after a couple of weeks, but that's how it came about. But we had great fun doing that. It happened to be Tom Conte. It happened to be his first film.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, it was his first film. And Alan Lake, who was our singer in the film, like Diana Dawes' husband, what a fantastic bloke. I mean, he had us in stitches all the way through the film. You know, he was a great guy. We had a great time. But I'll tell you what, because when Andrew and Richard came with us to the States, we said, we don't want to make a run around, jump around pop film. We said, otherwise, we want something with a bit of grit to it. And so fine. But when that's what we did, it did go against us.
Yeah.
Because people, they thought it was Slade in the film, arguing and breaking up at the end, that kind of thing. And it took a long time, you know, to try and explain to people that we're just playing parts. It's not Slade, you know, we're playing parts. But You know, but it was a great experience. I mean, we had a lot of great reviews from from Barry Norman and a few people like that. I always remember at the premiere there was Robin Nash, who used to produce Top of the Pops in those days. He was at the premiere and at the reception afterwards. He came over to me and Jim and he says, "I really admire what you've done." He said, "But do you think the kids want to see that?" And I know afterwards we realised what he meant, because they couldn't separate that we weren't Slade in the film, that we were actually playing parts. But it was a great experience. It was I really enjoyed doing it.
Because as a band, you know, I always see Slade as fantastic songs, tight, a muscular rock band, a great rock band. That's what I think the band was. But you got kind of associated with what I suppose is known as glam, you know.
Yes.
And Bowie, and which, you know, to a certain degree, which was a much more poppy kind of thing. Yes. So
it did go against us. I mean, it was great. It was okay in the UK, but every other territory we weren't taken seriously. You know what I mean? So they thought we were more interested in the way we looked than what we played. Although they respected the way we played on the records and everything, and I tell you what, it went against us like you can't believe how it went against us in America.
Yeah,
you know,
because you spent a long time in America touring, didn't you?
It was ridiculous. I mean, the thing is like the first tour of America was fantastic. It was with Humble Pie, with Steve Marriott. Peter Frampton had just left, and it was it's their first tour with what's his name, from Clem Clemenson, who used to be with Bakerloo. The great tour that was. But we were dressed up in the glam rock stuff, and the American situation there was all jeans and t-shirts, and our records never sounded right on American radios. There was too rowdy for AM stations and not sort of hip enough for the FM stations. And we never got radio play. The only time we got radio play is over in the States. I don't know whether you've had the experiences, like a lot of the time radio stations co-promote concerts. So consequently, the acts on the concert will go into the station and do a bit of a plug for the show that night. And that was the only time really that our records got played. The record that took off over there for us was How's You Feel, but that was like many years later. And that really suited American radio. But Goodbye to Jane got quite a bit of radio play, but it was not enough. I mean, and the way we looked as well was totally alien. We looked like something from another planet, you know, because all American bands, all the bands that we toured with, played with, were just in jeans and t-shirts, you know, and we go on looking like somebody from the Star Wars bar, you know, and sort of thing. And it really did go against us. It really did.
Well,
as I said, it wasn't.
Steve, I'm sorry to interrupt. Unfortunately, time is about to beat us. Now, I would really like to do maybe a part 2 to this sometime.
We should do a part 2. We should do it.
No, we've got to. I could go on for hours. We've got to do that.
I don't want the time to run out on the Zoom meeting before I say thank you very much to you both. Let's arrange a part 2 and we can carry on from where we've left off. Is that
That'd be great.
1973.
We'll do